Hey, this is Ryan with Shoe, and today I'm doing a long-term update on my Viberg 2030 service boots in brown Chrome Excel. Is this the most boring grail boot you can get? And is it really worth over $1,000 in 2025? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please enjoy. First of all, I want to say some people, especially if you're a big time Viberg fan, you might take offense to this video a little bit, but I want to start it off by saying I love my Viberg boots. I've had 3 pairs of Vibergs and each one of them is just awesome. They're comfortable, they're built like tanks, they're clicked immaculately. And if you're new to the boot world, clicking is when they pick the panels that they make the boots out of. And that is important, especially when you're using a leather like Chrome Excel, because sometimes loose grain can develop. And if a boot's clicked poorly, it is going to look not as good as it ages. So I do love these boots. I have no complaints about them. I think they're great. It's just I was looking online, looking at possibly buying another pair of Vibergs, and I just couldn't believe how much they cost right now. They're over $1,000 and you get free shipping. Like, woohoo. I pay over $1,000 and you give me free shipping. That's just amazing, right? I don't know. I feel like, okay, this isn't going to be a rant video because I do love these boots, but we're going to get real. I'm talking to you like I would a friend if I was recommending these boots. And I have a couple of different things that I've been thinking about with these boots that I want to just get off my chest. But I do love them. They are amazing. They are special. They are grail boots 100%. I mean, this is a boot. When you start to get into service boots, this becomes the end all boot, the boot that it's just you've got to get. It's easily recognized by the double row stitch down and how clean and tidy it is. So it's just, it's a great boot. No complaints about this boot. But the first thing I want to talk about is the price, especially for a boot with Chrome Excel. I'm not going to be justifying the price at all with these boots. I don't think they are worth the price. Spoiler alert, they're just not. I'm going to prove it to you in just a little bit. But I want to talk about the Chrome Excel that usually goes into a pair of Vibergs. It's different from the Chrome Excel that you get with Thursday and you get with like the 1,000-mile boot from Wolverine. And of course, I can't prove this. This is just me having many pairs of each form of those boots. And it just feels like the Chrome Excel comes from a different class of Chrome Excel. I do believe I've seen Phil from Ashland Leather do like a factory tour and go into Tannery Row, and there are different like levels and tiers of Chrome Excel, and I just feel like what you're getting with Viberg is a high tier, and there's just nothing wrong with Chrome Excel as a leather. If you're getting a high tier, no loose grain Chrome Excel boot, it's still amazing. Now, we live in a time where everybody wants horse bud, everyone wants wild veg tan leathers, but let's just be real. Chrome Excel is like the best boot leather you can have. It is comfortable, it's durable, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So we might overthink it sometimes when it comes to boot leathers. What is the best? What is going to make for the most comfortable boot, for the best looking boot? But I'm here to say, like, Chrome Excel is an amazing boot leather. We're getting into a whole different line of thinking when we're more exotic leathers, but Chrome Excel for your standard boot leather, even for a grill boot like this, if it's a well-clicked boot, Chrome Excel is going to be awesome. And that is what you get with Viberg. Most of the time you do get a well-clicked boot. Now I have seen it where Viberg did have some loose grain. Loose grain on the quarters here doesn't really bother me. Loose grain on the vamp is the only thing that really bothers me. And I personally have a friend who I recommended getting heritage boots, and he finally pulled the trigger and bought a pair of Wolverine 1,000-mile boots. And then I got a picture from him a month after he bought the boots, and it was a picture of the vamp of the boots, and the loose grain on those boots, those were 1,000-mile boots, was just horrible. And man, what do you even say at that point? It's like, if you don't like the look of it, they just look terrible. So, you know, I've never seen that on a pair of Vibergs. I've heard that it has happened, but I haven't personally seen it myself. Just a great boot, great quality, and so forth. But let's talk a little bit about why I really think these are not worth that price anymore. And it comes down to Nick's boots. So Nick's Handmade Boots out of Spokane, Washington, they offer some MTO boots that I feel like can get you a pretty close boot to this one. Now, Nix isn't going to be as well when it comes, they're not going to do as well when it comes to QC and everything, but they're going to do fairly good. And I went on their website and I spec'd out a boot. I spec'd out a boot as close to this boot as I possibly could. It was kind of a short 5-inch boot, all eyelets, all brass eyelets. It was brown chrome excel. It's double row stitch down, of course, low block heel, natural finish. I think I did a V-bar sole instead of this day and night sole that you see this boot with, and just kind of like the same exact build, and it was $644. 644, I think maybe 675 shipped, and then you pay taxes and everything. So that, I mean, this is over $1,000 now. So you're telling me that this boot is $400 better than that Nix boot. And this is made in Canada. Nix are made in the US. Both, are thriving economies where you have to pay the employees a lot of money. So you should expect to pay a good amount of money when you buy these boots. But are you telling me that the Nix are $400 worse than these? I don't see that. Matter of fact, I think Viberg is about a $200 upgrade. The last is really nice. The stitching is amazing. You're always getting super good stitching, and the double row stitch down is like no other boot that I've ever seen. With Nix, you're not going to get stitching this good. I have double row stitch down Nix boots that have great stitching, awesome stitching, but they're just not as pretty as this. And just keep that in mind for a second, because I have a small rant about this stitching coming up pretty soon too. But the upper stitching, everything, just how it is laid out, how it's lasted, it's gonna be better with Viberg. I really do think that if you buy 100 Viberg boots over 100 Nix boots, you're going to be happier with the Viberg boots over that amount of purchases. But Nix is still creating a super awesome boot that for $644 is amazing. So I think $200 more than that 644, maybe like at 850 to 950. That's what these are worth to me. The $1,000, 1,045 or 1,075, whatever they are at the time of shooting this, heck, they might go up by the time this posts, but that's just way too much money for these boots. They're amazing boots. It's just too much money, especially when you can buy a boot like Nix and save a ton of cash. Now, some will say, well, Nix boots, it's an MTO process. You have to wait 6 months. With Viberg, I purchased that day, it gets sent the next. Well, to me, that's a here nor there subject, because a lot of guys are going to want an MTO. They're not going to want to just be force-fed whatever Viberg is giving you with their drops. They have a spring, summer, fall drop, and it's kind of, you get what you get with it. And with Nix, you're going to wait a long time, but at least you're going to be able to pick every component, or, for the most part, and you can just really have fun with the leathers, go with Wicked and Craig with Nix and do vegetan leathers and all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah, so I don't really see that as a negative or a pro. That's kind of a wash to me, the lead times versus the fast turnaround with the Viberg because of the customization. So there you go. $875 to $900 boot. That's what this is. This is not a $1,100 boot. And, obviously they are making sales. They are staying in business, selling it at that price. So that tells you that I don't really know what I'm talking about. But if you watch this channel, you already know that. We're just having a good time talking about boots. But here's my other rant that is incoming with the Viberg boots. And, these have been worn well. And maybe they could get a new heel, but they still got time on that heel. But I'm thinking, let me think about a resole. Well, this gorgeous stitch down welt that they put on this boot makes it so I cannot get this resoled in my area. No cobbler will touch this stitch density. Matter of fact, I was reaching out to the only cobblers I can find. It's going to cost a lot of money just to resole this boot, and it's because of how tight that stitch per inch is, or that SPI, which is gorgeous right now. And when it's new, when it comes time to resole, that becomes a huge problem, because unlike a welted boot, this is a stitch down boot. So that is the upper leather. So you can't just chew through that and the boot be okay. Once that upper leather is destroyed, basically the boot is destroyed. I have two other pairs of Viberg, and they're both their welted version, and I actually like those a little bit better because those are kind of an old-fashioned type of construction where it's a hold fast. So instead of a gemming, a fabric gemming that's used to hold the welt on, those boots, they carve a channel in the leather and they sew the welt to that. So they're going to last super long. They're a little bit more comfortable to me because they have a thicker gap between the footbed and the sole, which they fill with a cork, which, you know, kind of molds to my foot a little bit faster. These do mold to your feet. It just takes a lot longer because it's just a thick leather insole. There is a thin layer of cork in these, and then that thick leather midsole. But with these, it's just a little disappointing how I can't find anyone to resole this. So that is another thing that I think is actually a positive with the Nix boots. So Nix boots, people will complain that the SPI or the stitch per inch isn't as good as with the Vibergs, but I think that makes it easier to resole and it makes it more affordable to resole. And then of course you could just send it to Nix and they can resole it. And if you get to it before it's totally thrashed with a Nix boot, they don't have to do the full rebuild where they change the vamp, but they can just put a new sole on it and it will be a little bit more affordable. So there's my spiel of this boot. In conclusion, I love the boots. They're amazing boots. They're awesome boots, 10 out of 10 really. But for $1,100, I just can't do it. I just can't justify it anymore. Now there are Vibergs that go on sale, and that's where, for me at least, I'm going to be looking for Viber boots. If they're the 850 to 950, yeah, I think it's worth it. I think it's a super awesome boot. But nowadays, there's so many great boot makers from all over. And if you have $1,000 to spend on a boot, you can either buy a pair of Vibergs or multiple pairs of really nice boots. But thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions about this boot in the comments below. I'll try to get to it, and I will see you on the next one.